July 1944. World War II is still raging. Normandy is barely a month old. The Pacific is still on fire. But inside a grand hotel in New Hampshire, a group of men in suits are making a decision that has nothing to do with soldiers or bombs. They are deciding something far more powerful than any weapon ever built. They are deciding who controls the money of the entire world, who writes the rules, who issues the currency that every nation on Earth will need to survive, who becomes effectively the financial sovereign of the planet. America won that meeting before it started, and right now in 2026, China is trying to win the same meeting, using America's own playbook, executed with patience and precision over 25 years, while most of the Western world looked the other way. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what China is building, how far along they are, and what it means for every dollar you own. Welcome to Global Economy Today. If you're new here, this channel exists for one reason, to explain the financial and geopolitical forces that are quietly reshaping the world before most people realize it's happening. Subscribe now, because what we're covering today is the most consequential economic story of our lifetime. Let's start at the beginning. To understand what China is doing right now, you need to understand precisely how America stole financial dominance from Britain between 1900 and 1944. Not because it's interesting history, though it is, but because China has studied this playbook in extraordinary detail and is running it step by step. In 1900, Britain was the undisputed financial center of the world. The pound sterling was the global reserve currency. London's banks financed international trade. If you were a merchant in Argentina trading with a merchant in Indonesia, you almost certainly settled that transaction in British pounds through a London bank, even though Britain had nothing to do with the deal. That is what reserve currency dominance actually means in practice, not just prestige. Real, structural, and visible power. The ability to collect a quiet tax on every transaction in the global economy simply by being the issuer of the currency everyone needs. The ability to fund your own government and money you can create. The ability to use financial access as a weapon against nations that oppose you. Britain had all of that, and America wanted it. So American policymakers spent 4 decades executing a 5-step strategy to take it. Step 1, become the world's largest creditor. America lent aggressively to Britain and France during World War I. After the war, those nations owed America enormous debts. Creditors have leverage over debtors. That is not ideology, it is arithmetic. America collected on that leverage for the next 30 years. Step 2, accumulate gold. Through the 1920s and 1930s, America systematically built its gold reserves. In a world where currencies were backed by gold, whoever held the gold set the terms of every agreement. By 1944, America held 70% of the world's gold reserves. The math was simply unanswerable. Step 3, build alternative financial infrastructure. American banks expanded internationally. Wall Street developed as a rival financial center to London. Over time, global traders had a genuine choice between American and British systems, and they increasingly chose New York. Step 4, wait for Britain to exhaust itself. 2 world wars accomplished what no American strategy could have done directly. Britain spent its empire and its treasury defending the world order it had built and benefited from. By 1944, Britain needed American loans to keep its government functioning. The leverage had completely reversed. Step 5, propose a new architecture at the moment of Britain's maximum weakness. At Bretton Woods, with Britain financially dependent on American credit and American goodwill, America proposed a new global financial order with the dollar at its center. Britain sent its greatest economist, John Maynard Keynes, to argue for a neutral reserve currency not controlled by any single nation. He called it the Bancor. It was arguably the right idea for the world. He lost completely. America's proposal won because America had the gold, America had the leverage, and Britain had no power left to refuse. The dollar became the global reserve currency. The American century began in that hotel room. And now, step by step, China is doing to America exactly what America did to Britain. Step 1, China has become a major global creditor. Through the Belt and Road Initiative over the past 2 decades, China has deployed over $1 trillion in infrastructure financing across Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. Roads, railways, ports, power plants, telecommunications networks. China funded the infrastructure that developing nations desperately needed and that Western institutions frequently declined to finance. Those loans create exactly the same dependency that America's WWI loans created over Britain. Nations that owe China money cannot easily oppose Chinese foreign policy without risking their access to Chinese capital. The leverage flows toward Beijing, and China additionally holds approximately $800 billion in U.S. Treasury bonds, making China one of America's largest creditors directly. Western analysts often discuss this as China's vulnerability. What if they sell those bonds? But that framing completely inverts the power dynamic. China holding American debt means China is America's creditor. And we have just established, with historical precision, what creditor-debtor relationships mean for who holds the leverage. Step 2. China is accumulating gold at a scale that deserves far more serious attention than it receives in Western financial media. Since 2009, the People's Bank of China has been systematically adding gold to its reserves every single year. Official figures acknowledge over 2,000 tons. But analysts who study China's state purchasing patterns through non-official channels believe the real number is substantially higher, potentially between 5,000 and 10,000 tons, accumulated through state entities that are deliberately kept out of official reserve statistics. Why does gold matter in 2026 in a world of digital transactions and floating exchange rates? Because of what happened in February 2022. The United States and its allies froze $300 billion of Russia's dollar-denominated reserves overnight. $300 billion locked, inaccessible, used as a financial weapon in geopolitical conflict. Every government on Earth watched that happen. Every government on Earth, and especially China, received the identical message: dollar reserves can be weaponized at any moment. Gold cannot be sanctioned. Gold cannot be frozen. Gold exists outside every nation's financial jurisdiction. The global race to accumulate gold accelerated dramatically after February 2022. China leads that race, and the pace has been increasing, not decreasing in 2025 and into 2026. Step 3. China is building complete alternative financial infrastructure. This is the most visible and most consistently underestimated dimension of China's strategy, and it is progressing faster than most Western analysts publicly acknowledge. CEPS, the cross-border interbank payment system, is China's direct functional alternative to SWIFT, the Western-controlled messaging network that coordinates international bank transfers. When the United States removed Russia from SWIFT in 2022, it provided the world with a live demonstration of the most important principle in modern financial warfare. Controlling the infrastructure of international payments is equivalent to controlling international trade. China had been building CIPS since 2015. As of early 2026, over 1,400 financial institutions across more than 100 countries are connected to CIPS. It is not yet a complete SWIFT replacement, but it is a functioning, growing parallel system, and it adds participants every single month. Beyond CIPS, China has been negotiating Yuan-denominated trade agreements with strategically chosen partners. Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter, began accepting Yuan for oil sales to China in 2023. The significance of this single development cannot be overstated. The Petrodollar system, the arrangement by which oil is priced and traded exclusively in US dollars, has been the structural backbone of dollar reserve currency dominance since 1974. For 50 years, every nation on Earth that needed to buy oil needed to hold dollars first. That single requirement alone has sustained extraordinary global demand for dollars, regardless of America's fiscal behavior. Every barrel of oil sold in a currency other than dollars directly challenges that structural foundation. Saudi Arabia accepting Yuan is not a minor diplomatic detail. It is a crack in the cornerstone of the entire dollar system. Russia now settles the majority of its trade with China in Yuan and rubles. India is developing rupee-based bilateral trade frameworks. Brazil proposed a BRICS common currency. The BRICS bloc itself, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and its newer members, now represents a larger share of global GDP than the G7. These are not isolated diplomatic incidents. They are components of a coherent, accelerating global architecture being built to reduce dollar dependency. And China is the architect. Step 4. China is waiting for America to exhaust itself. America is cooperating completely. The United States national debt stands at $36 trillion as of early 2026. It is growing at approximately $2 trillion per year, faster than the U.S. economy is growing. Annual interest payments on that debt have crossed $1 trillion, making debt service one of the largest single items in the federal budget, larger than all discretionary domestic spending and approaching the size of the entire defense budget. The Congressional Budget Office projects these numbers getting worse, not better, under any politically plausible policy scenario. The political system is structurally incapable of reversing this trajectory, not because American politicians lack intelligence, many of them understand the math perfectly, but because the solutions require either major spending cuts or major tax increases. And in a system where political power rotates every 4 years, neither option is survivable for the politicians who choose it. So the choices do not get made. The debt compounds. The interest grows. The trajectory continues. China's leadership operates on a fundamentally different time horizon. Xi Jinping's government is executing a strategy measured in decades. They are not reacting to the next election cycle. They are positioning for the next world order. They do not need to defeat America in any direct confrontation. They simply need to be ready when America's debt spiral forces a financial reckoning, and then be positioned to propose the new arrangement, exactly as America was positioned in 1944. Now let me give you the honest assessment you deserve, because this subject is frequently distorted in both directions, both by those who claim the dollar is collapsing imminently and by those who dismiss any challenge to dollar dominance as fantasy. The dollar is not collapsing this year. Your savings are not worthless tomorrow. The dollar currently represents approximately 58% of global foreign exchange reserves. The yuan represents roughly 2.5%. By raw current numbers, dollar dominance remains real and substantial, but trajectory matters more than current snapshot. In 2001, the dollar represented 71% of global reserves. Today it represents 58%. That is a 13 percentage point decline in 25 years. At that rate of sustained erosion, the dollar represents roughly 45% of global reserves by 2050. Still the single largest reserve currency, but no longer unambiguously dominant, no longer untouchable, no longer the automatic default that every nation turns to without question. America has genuine structural advantages that China lacks, and that will meaningfully slow any transition. The rule of law, transparent and independent financial institutions, capital markets that are deeper and more liquid than anything China has built or can build quickly, a network of allied nations deeply integrated into dollar-based systems over decades. These are real advantages, not propaganda, and they mean that dollar displacement, if it happens, will unfold over decades rather than years. But here is the lesson that Bretton Woods teaches us about how these transitions actually conclude. Britain did not lose reserve currency status gradually in 1944. Britain had been losing the structural foundations of that status for 30 years, through WWI loans, through gold depletion, through the exhaustion of 2 world wars. But the moment of actual transition was not gradual. It was sudden. Britain walked into the hotel in New Hampshire as the issuer of the world's reserve currency. Britain walked out, having lost that status. 30 years of structural erosion crystallized overnight into a new arrangement at a single moment of maximum weakness. China is not passively waiting for that moment. China is deliberately engineering the conditions for one. Building the gold, building SIPs, building creditor relationships across the entire developing world, building bilateral frameworks that function independently of American financial infrastructure. So that when America's moment of maximum financial vulnerability arrives, when the debt spiral forces a genuine crisis, when the dollar's credibility comes into serious question, when the global economy urgently needs a new arrangement, China will already be positioned to propose one, with the gold to back it, with the infrastructure to support it, with the creditor relationships to enforce it. Just as America was positioned on that July day in 1944. The question is not whether China has this intention. The Belt and Road loans, the systematic gold accumulation, CIPS, the petrodollar negotiations, the BRICS architecture, none of these are accidental policy decisions. They are a coherent grand strategy executed over a quarter century by a government with a very long memory and a very precise objective. The question, the only question that matters for what happens next, is whether America has the political will to address the vulnerabilities China is systematically exploiting before they reach the critical threshold, reduce the debt meaningfully, rebuild productive domestic capacity, deepen and strengthen alliances, maintain the genuine credibility of dollar-denominated assets through fiscal discipline rather than financial engineering. These are the responses that could slow or prevent China's Bretton Woods moment. And based on every trajectory visible in March 2026, $36 trillion in debt, $2 trillion annual deficits, no credible fiscal reform pathway in the current political environment, America is not making those choices. It is doing precisely what Britain did throughout the 1930s, hoping the existing order holds long enough, hoping the transition doesn't happen on the current generation's watch, hoping the math works out differently than math has ever worked in human history. Britain hoped the same thing. Britain had brilliant people who understood exactly what was happening. Keynes understood it better than almost anyone alive. He sat across the table from the Americans at Bretton Woods and made the right arguments. He lost. Not because the arguments were wrong, because Britain had already lost the leverage required to win the argument. The arguments don't determine financial power. Leverage does, gold does, creditor relationships do, infrastructure does, patience does. China has spent 25 years systematically accumulating all of those things. If this is the first time you're seeing how deliberate, how structured, and how far advanced China's strategy actually is, subscribe to Global Economy Today right now, because I am tracking every significant move in this power transition as it develops, and I am going to make sure you understand it clearly before the consequences arrive. Hit the like button if this changed how you see the US-China rivalry, and leave a comment with the question that's on your mind right now. Do you believe America can prevent its own Bretton Woods moment? Or is the debt too large, the political will too absent, the trajectory already too deeply set to reverse? Britain had smart people. They understood exactly what was happening. They just couldn't stop it.